My cat Pod died on the 24th of January. I found out yesterday. He was hit by a car on the motorway because he was silly and he decided to run down to the motorway. He was probably chasing a dream like he always did. And they think it was quick. And when we found him, he looked like he was sleeping, but we didn't find him for about 3 days. We thought he was lost. We went all around the neighborhood trying to call him. And we posted on all the Facebook pages, and everyone was so lovely. And then we found the deceased animal notice on the council page of my city, and we called them, and they said it was a match, and tried not to cry on the phone. And then we went and got the body, and it was 3 days later. And we buried him, and that's that. And I wanted to talk about it with everybody because as much as Pod has been there for me, he's also been there for everybody on this channel, right? If you've watched my videos, then you've probably seen him because he was there from the start. In my very first ever weekly Draft League video, it kind of chronicled my meeting him. It was only about 3 months ago. It was the end of October. And he just turned up. He was a stray. He just turned up. We kind of captured him when he just kind of walked in and demanded food. And we took him to the vet. And they said he didn't have an owner and he wasn't neutered and didn't have a microchip. So we said we'd take him in. I took him in. I live in a little shed thing adjacent to the main house. And I said, he can live in here and the other cats can live downstairs in the main house. So yeah, that all happened over the course of the same week that I was recording my first video for this channel. And one of the reasons that I actually recorded that video was because I wanted to record this funny cat that had turned up. And I thought that made for quite a compelling kind of A-B plot. Now the video is kind of terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. And I went back and watched some of it and I was like, oh my God, the assets are atrocious and the mic quality is terrible and it looks horrible. And I couldn't really bear to watch very much of it because it's really, really sad now for me. I think it'll be happy one day because I'll look back fondly on the memory. But right now it's really, really sad. And the thing about death and the thing about grief is that it fades with time. It always fades with time. The scars, they don't go away. They never go away. But they fade and they become manageable and you start to look back on things, if not fondly, then with a kind of bittersweet, I'm glad I was there kind of feeling, and the scars pile up and up. And I think if it didn't work that way, we just wouldn't be able to function as people because there'd be too many tragedies that would just weigh us down and weigh us down and weigh us down until we couldn't do anything. So it's good that sadness fades, but I find that thought really sad right now because along with the sadness fades the memories. I think that if you've lost someone, you'll know how it feels to forget things about them, forget their face, forget the sound of their voice. It's really sad, even if it makes it easier to cope in the world. It's really sad in its own way because you forget them and time takes them away from you and they become less and less a real thing that you can have in your life and talk to and be with and that you can take for granted because you don't expect anything to happen to them, and they become instead history and a story to tell the survivors and the next generation, and a myth and a legend and an icon to keep you going. But from where I am here, I found out yesterday that he was dead, but barely 24 hours ago, and then we buried him. And so from where I am here, I don't want to forget. I don't want to let these things go. Like I have so many memories that I want to keep forever. I want to keep them locked in my head and replay them over and over, even though it's torture right now doing that because I just know that they're memories, they're not real. So I wanted to talk about I guess, the circumstances of his death. But I'll leave that till the end. I want to talk about first all the things I remember about him, all the amazing things, so that there's a record, so that 20 years from now, when I've forgotten all this and I've got new problems and new sadnesses and I'm a new person, I can look back and see and remember Pod as I remembered him when he was in my life. Or maybe I'm dead in 20 years as well, and I've joined Pod wherever he's gone, and the people who survived me can look back and add this to their collection of memories that they have of the time when I was around. Anyway, let's talk about Pod. So we showed up, and he just kind of came into my life. He was like a firework. My partner said that. He was like a firework. He came into our life, and he was just all energy and all love. And he didn't last very long. 3 months is not a long time. But he burned bright. I don't think he had a happy life before he met us. He was about a year old, we think. Maybe not quite fully grown when he turned up. He still had some kind of kitteny looks in his face, and he was very, very playful and very, very kind of not intelligent, and he was very desperate. He was crazy when he first went for our food. He was like snuffling and snorting and gulping it down, and he never got over that. He always gulped his food down. He loved it so much, and I would put it on his plate, and he would come in, and I would be there, and he would be eating it as I was putting it down. By the time I'd finished squeezing the meat out of the bag, it was half gone. He just had this survival thing that had kicked on in his brain where he felt like he would never get food again. So I think he was either stray or abandoned. He was very well socialized. He knew how to talk to humans, and he knew how to ask for food. So he must have been going around begging for food from other people, or he must have had owners who left him. I don't know which one. But he had a total abandonment complex, and he was so attached to me. He was so attached to me. Whenever I'd go down for dinner in the main house, he would follow me down and sit outside the door meowing until I came back up, and then he'd come back up to the bed, and he'd be so happy. He'd be like, "Yay, we're back, it's time, Pod time again." And I'd say, "Pod, I'm not going to leave you." And I don't know, last week, less than a week ago, almost exactly a week ago, my friend came over, and Pod was here, and Pod was climbing all over me, and he likes to kind of put his head right up here, and he likes to lick me all over, and purrs, and he just lays on me, and he trusted me so completely. And everyone who came over, when my friend said, "That cat loves you so much," and I loved him so much too. And the hard part about him dying so suddenly and so unexpectedly is that I feel these things. I feel so guilty because I took him in and I made myself responsible for him, and I tried as hard as I could to give him a good life, but I couldn't keep him safe. He I guess we'll have to talk about what happened. So yeah, he walked onto the motorway. It's a fair distance from my house, the motorway. It's not like that close. He had to kind of walk. And I have no idea what he was doing down there. There are fences and stuff, but of course he's a cat, he can climb over them. But he just followed his heart, that guy. Like he got an idea in his head, and there was nothing you could do to stop him. He decided on something, and then he just had to go for it. And he wasn't as afraid of roads as he should have been. He would whenever he would get rocked up. We gave him the middle name, the Dark Urge. So his full name was Pod the Dark Urge Kid. And That's just a Baldur's Gate reference, but it's also just because he was a sweetie. He was an absolute sweetie, but he had kind of intrusive thoughts that he couldn't help but act upon. He would just get rocked up and he'd bite you, or he'd scratch you. Not hard, but he just like he would just chomp, and then he would get real ashamed. And when there were other cats around, he would like see them, and you could tell he like didn't really want to make enemies, but he would just not be able to avoid going into predator mode. He would like start sneaking up on them, and then he'd pounce and he'd chase them, and so he got into a lot of fights. It was okay that he got into fights with the neighbors' cats because they were encroaching upon our cat's territory, and it was kind of good to have someone who would actually put up a fight because both of our cats are pushovers. But he would also fight our cats, and that wasn't so good. That wasn't so good at all. So he wasn't allowed into the house. But thankfully, he had no idea how to use a cat door. There's just a cat door right there, and our cats would just go in and out of it, and he would chase them down to the cat door. They'd jump in, and he wouldn't have the slightest clue how to operate it, even though he could see them going through it. He had no idea. Sometimes, occasionally, they would go through and it would be left swinging back and forth. And he would bat it with his hand repeatedly, and it would keep swinging. But he had no idea how to get through, and so we could keep him out of the house. And he would do that to you too, that batting. If you really annoyed him, like I would try to block his line of sight between him and a cat he was trying to fight, because if he couldn't see them, he would kind of leave predator mode and like, become pod again. But he would like peek around, and then his eyes would widen, and he would go back into hunt mode. So it was not a flawless strategy. But yeah, so he wasn't allowed inside the house, but he was finding other ways to sneak in. So he was coming in through the kitchen window and through the dining room window. So we had to close those at dinner time, because if he knew I was going down there, he would try to get in. And the other weekend, my family went away on a holiday, so it was just me and Caitlin, my partner, here at the house, and we were looking after the other cats, and we were like, we kind of want to let him in because we think he would actually be good friends with the house cats. It's just that he has these dark urges. But if we could just like get them acquainted, I mean, we tried for ages to like feed them like through a glass thing so they can see each other eating, so they know that they're not threats to each other. We'd give them treats if they were nice, and he was slowly getting better. I think if he'd had another year or two, he would have eventually gotten older, calmed down, and made it to the point where he could have integrated. But we were house sitting, and so we were down in the house, and we were saying he couldn't come in, and it was the right thing to do. But I feel really bad about it because that was the last weekend I ever got to spend with him, and I didn't get to spend it with him properly because I was house sitting, and so I feel really sad about it. Anyway, he would chase the cats down, and he would chase the cats, and he would get, after he acted on his dark urges, he would get really embarrassed because we knew that he'd acted upon an urge he hadn't wanted to, and so he would stalk away. He would kind of walk off into shame, and he would run down to the bushes outside the front of the house and kind of sit there, and then you'd have to go down and be like, Pod, Pod, and he would kind of sit there, and he wouldn't look at you, and you say, Pod, and then he'd kind of come up. And the way the bushes work is there's the driveway here, and then beside the driveway on the other side are like raised bushes, so like at the height of the car almost, and we have grasses and stuff planted in them. Tall grasses, like tussock grasses, so he could sneak inside them. And at the entrance of the driveway are two like steel gates that we usually have pulled in, so the car's there. And so you have this wall, this brick wall, and then you have the steel gate here. And Pod did this thing where he would, after he got embarrassed, he would walk out onto the fence, the steel fence that went along the brick wall, and he would worm his way through the bars. And then when he got to the gate, he would worm his way through the bars and the gate. So he had his left paws on the gate and his right paws on the bricks, and he was like slithering through them. And you'd kind of say, Pod, it's okay, and then he'd let you pat him, and then everything would calm down. That was kind of a typical disaster resolution. If it got really bad, he would sometimes run across the road and then sulk. The other week, I had to break up a fight between him and one of the house cats, and he got so embarrassed and worked up that he ran across the road and jumped up on the opposite side's neighbour's mailbox and then sat with his back to me. And I was like, "Well, you got to come back because it's late and I don't want you to get hit by a car." But obviously he did in the end. Yeah. But there were lots of other good things. I mean, he was so friendly. He would just lie on me, and he would jump up on my lap. I mean, you've seen him on the videos. Like, he's constantly jumping up on my lap and just throwing himself on me. He would usually choose one of my arms, my left or my right, and just lie on top of it. So I couldn't use that arm. So I had to try to convince him to use my left arm, because I'm right-handed, so I could operate my spreadsheets or whatever, my Pokemon spreadsheets with my right hand, and then have Pod on my left. That was kind of a typical day in my life for the last 3 months. And then he got really playful. It was usually in sort of the afternoon, around like 6 o'clock, he would enter like play mode, and he would be a bit, he would kind of pounce on you. Like if you're just walking down the stairs, he'd like come up and he'd pounce, and he'd want to play. And he loved to chase different things. I had a ball of string that he loved to chase in the room, but his favourite thing in the world was Toy Toy, which is a native plant in my country, and it forms these long grass stems with like a seed head in spring and summer. And so we've got a whole bunch of them planted right outside my room, and you can cut them off at the bottom of the stem, and you have this long stalk with a seed head at the top, and you can swish it around. And he loved to chase them, and he would chase them for hours, and it was really, really fun. He was such a good hunter. He had learned to we'd swish the Toy Toy like this, and he would, rather than going forward towards it, like strafe sideways like he was playing a shooting video game, and then strafe back, and then lunge when he'd kind of got it cornered. He was really good at it. And he was a jumper. Oh my god, he was a jumper. He could jump so high. You'd lift the Toy Toy up, and Pod would just launch himself into the air to grab it. So he would like splay his legs and spin around, and he'd grab it from the air. And the cutest thing of all that he did was sometimes when he got it, he'd pick it up in his mouth, and then he'd walk with it along like a dog with a bone. And it was just so adorable. So that was one of his favourite games. His other favourite game was called Lay in Wait. And the way Lay in Wait works is Pod would hide behind something. A bush was really good, because he loved bushes. He loved to wrestle with bushes and attack bushes, and he loved to lay in wait in bushes. So he would crouch down in the bush, and then you, the other player of Lay in Wait, would crouch down behind something else. So bushes are best, but also like walls. So if there's like the corner of the house, you can hide behind the corner, and you'd both look at each other, so you knew you were stalking at each other. And then Pod would slowly move closer, and then you'd like sort of hide so he could just see you, and then he'd pounce, and he'd jump at you, and he'd tap you with his paw, but he wouldn't scratch you. He'd just tap you to show that he got you, and then you'd say, "Ah, Pod, you've got me! Like I'm in so much pain, and you're so scary." And then you'd run to new hiding spots and hide in them. And that was a really good game. For New Year's, on New Year's Eve, we were playing Trivial Pursuit, because my family has a tradition where every New Year's we play Trivial Pursuit until it gets way too late. And we were playing Trivial Pursuit, but Pod wasn't allowed in the house. So, between rounds, because there were like 6 of us, so 6 teams, so you'd have like off time while other people ponder trivia. Either me or Caitlin would have to come outside and play Lay in Wait with Pod, because he was so upset that we were all enjoying the New Year before him. And we were all looking forward to, because at midnight there's like fireworks. We're all looking forward to coming out and standing with Pod for New Year's Eve, but someone let off an early firework and he got scared off, so we didn't see him, and he ran away. And so I never got to spend the New Year's with him. Yeah, he had lots of other things he loved. He loved his little mushroom toy. We buried him with this mushroom toy that we bought for him. and we buried him with a frond of Toy Toy because it was his favourite. But he also had his cat tower, and he had his comb here for his hair because he had really long, fluffy hair. And he had his favourite food in all the world, which was Purina 1 kitten food with chicken in gravy. It was his absolute favourite food. He would go crazy for it. And one of the things that I feel so sad about is that we were giving him 2 wet foods a day, and it was really digging into our expenses. It was quite expensive. So we were thinking we could train him to just have one for dinner. Even though it was his favourite thing in all the world to have it, we were thinking, well, he'll still get 1 a day, but we can't really afford to keep giving him 2. It's really expensive. And he loves biscuits too. These biscuits. Healthy kitten biscuits. He loves them too, so maybe it won't be so bad. So I haven't been giving him breakfast meat. I've just been giving him breakfast biscuits. But if I'd known that he was going to die, I would have let him have breakfast. I would have given him his breakfast the last few weeks. I know how much he loves them. But I didn't know. Of course I didn't know. And so I just feel really bad about that. But there's not much that can be done. And there's the problem is that it's like hard to think of all the different memories. I mean, there's so many times that we would just chill in. He loved to lay in really funny positions. He would like lay on his back and contort all around. He was so trusting. He trusted us completely. And he would, my Caitlin and I would be in bed, and he would come on and he'd lay over both of us like a kind of log. And then if we rolled apart, he would slump down into the groove, and be like a pod bridge between us. It was so cute. And yeah, and it's been yeah. That's Pod. He would follow me to work. He would follow Caitlin up the road. We'd have to come back and trick him, but he was really easy to trick because he wasn't very smart. So there were a few times when we had to take him to the vet, and he would have to stay in. Like once he came home, he'd have to stay in overnight, or stay in before because he was going to get sedation. And he hated being locked inside. He always wanted to be out exploring that pod. He never wanted to be trapped anywhere. So he would always try to escape, but he was really easy to trick. So what we would often do is we'd have both of us in the room, and one of us would need to leave. So the other one would go down the other side of the room and like tap on the window, and he would run over there to like check it out, and the other one would slip out. Or yeah, you just distract him with something, or you pretend that you're going to open a different part of the room up, and then he would just fall for it every time because he didn't have any brain cells. And yeah, we took him to the vet not that long ago because he'd gotten into a fight and he had an infected leg, and we wanted to make sure that he would be okay. So we did this whole vet journey, and he was fine. He recovered straight away. They gave him antibiotics, but yeah, we had him inside overnight, and he was just an absolute mess, running around, jumping, pouncing. He went stir crazy if you tried to lock him up anywhere. But we had so many plans. You know, my partner and I, she has a cat of her own, and we've been planning to move out for ages. We want to move out. We both still live with our families, and we want to have our own lives, but I have been slow in getting my master's degree, and her grandparents she's kind of living with them to help them, and so we're both stuck at home. But we've been planning that we're going to buy our own house, and we were going to make Pod an inside cat, right? We were going to make sure that he couldn't get himself into any trouble because we knew that he wasn't very smart. By making him an inside cat, we'd have a nice big house, and we were thinking we'd build him a catio so we could still go outside. But we were going to say, Pod, you're a danger, you got to stay in, but we'll give you all the lovely things inside the house to make sure you have a good life. But we didn't get out fast enough, and I don't know, there's a part of me that thinks I should have done something, because I knew that he was a danger to himself, but I didn't know it would happen like this. I couldn't have kept him in the cube because he went crazy, and he didn't like to be kept in, and I didn't know that he was going all the way down to the motorway. And yeah, and I don't know, it might seem silly because for me to be so distraught, because I only knew him for 3 months. You know, it's just about 3 months exactly since he showed up. But he really saved me. I mean, last year I was in a really dark place. I was really sick. I had really, really crippling gastritis, and my mental health was absolutely shot as well. So I just spent every day throwing up in like severe pain, constantly dizzy, constantly nauseous. I couldn't do anything. I was just stuck in bed for months and months, miserable, absolutely miserable. And it felt like, I felt like I would never be happy again. It felt like my life was just over. It was so bad. Um, and then Pod showed up, and I started this channel at the same about that exactly the same time. And suddenly I had something good in my life, something new, and he pulled me out of that dark place and made this channel possible, and he got me back to uni. Like I'm back working again now, and that's probably thanks to Pod, because he made me so much happier, and I I feel so lonely now without him. I feel like I because the last few weeks, every morning he's woken me up. Like, he's my alarm. He would wake me up at 6 a.m. with a meow, and if I didn't get up, he would jump in the window on top of me and wake me up by landing on me. And then he would meow, and I'd give him his breakfast, and he'd be so happy. And then I would go down to the house, and he'd follow me down to the house and wait outside on the steps, and then I'd come back out, and then he'd run up to me, and he'd meow, and he'd rub against me, and then we'd run back up to the room together, and then we'd cuddle, and then I would go to work, and he would try to follow me to work, but I said, "God, you can't go to work." And then I'd come back home. And he would greet me, and then I would be so tired, and I'd go sit down in my chair, and he would jump up on my lap, and he would cuddle me while I was, decompressing and making these videos for the channel that I've been making. And he was just, and I struggle to sleep. I have like sleep anxiety, and he would cuddle me when I was going to sleep as well. And I felt like I had someone who was looking after me, and someone that I was meant to look after. And so now I feel really, really guilty. And I know that you'll say it's not my fault, and I know rationally that it isn't, but I just think, what if I hadn't gone to work that day? It was Thursday, last Thursday. I went to work. I came back, he wasn't there, but I figured he was just out, because sometimes he would stay out overnight and not come in for dinner. I figured he was just out. I figured he had just gone, he was having an adventure somewhere. And it was okay. And then the next morning he didn't come in for breakfast, and I kind of raised the alarm. And then he didn't come in for dinner, and I thought I shouldn't have gone into work. I should have stayed with him, because he didn't like it when I went to work. But I still wasn't that worried, because, he was a stray and he had places to be. And then on Saturday we went out and we called for him, and we posted pictures of him. But it was a long weekend, so it was like a public holiday on Monday. And so we thought maybe he'd been trapped somewhere, locked in someone's house, and he'd be out. They'd get back from their holiday on Monday and let him out. So Saturday and Sunday we just kind of spent like in suspense, but like hopeful, but in suspense. And then on Monday, I just had this gut feeling that we'd find out. We'd find out whether he was okay. And my partner was looking through the deceased animal pictures, and we found one, and the description matched him almost exactly, and he was in our area. And I think at that moment we both knew. And I was just trying not to cry, because someone had to make the phone call. So I called them, and I gave them his description, and I gave them his microchip number, and I gave them his pictures, and they were so nice, but they said, "Yeah, it's your cat, I'm sorry." And so I didn't know if we could go pick up his body, but my dad dropped everything to go pick it up, and then we buried him that same day. It was maybe 4 hours between finding out he was dead and putting his body in the ground. And I couldn't bear to look at him, like to see his body. My father wrapped him up in a towel, and Caitlin went and looked at him. I couldn't do it. It was too much. The last time I saw him was last Thursday morning when I said goodbye to him. And he said meow, and he said he didn't want me to go to work, and then he died. Um, and so he's buried just on that side, so the side of the camera, like behind the camera. In the garden, he's buried just out there. And I don't know where we go from here. And I'm sure there are other memories that I'm not thinking of, and it distresses me that I can't conjure them, because I don't want any moment to be forgotten, but that's not how memories work, right? Like, we don't remember all the little things because we don't think we have to. I just remember him being always there. I mean, always there to a fault. Like, he would break in when he wasn't allowed, and he would kick up a fuss when I wasn't giving him attention. But he was so nice and so sweet. And I feel like I feel heartbroken. I feel like I've lost something really dear to me, and I feel like the channel has too. I don't know if I can keep making these videos. I think I can, but I might need some time. I mean, you'll notice I haven't made a video for a while. That's partly because I was trying to make this video about Latias and Latios, and I was like, we're going to make it about their ecology and do a bit of extra stuff, and then I got my new traps in, and I got distracted, and Anyway, that video is mostly done, but it's just really painful to look at the channel because Pod was such a major part of it. And it's hard for me to want to keep making videos going forward without him, you know? But I do want to keep making videos because the videos are the other thing that really saved me. So I probably will, but I don't know when. But I was thinking I might rename the channel to Pod, just because I know maybe it's morbid, or maybe it's I don't know, but I want him to be remembered, you know, like, and I know that's kind of pointless because he's gone and he doesn't know that being remembered doesn't help him, but I want him to be remembered, and I want to remember him, and this channel wasn't possible without him, and I just don't want to forget him, because there's already things that I know I've forgotten. Like, I wasn't trying to remember every moment, and so some of the moments are just gone. Like, they were never in my brain. And I thought I'd just have more time to make more because he was so young. He was barely a year old. But no, he's gone. And so I think I might rename the channel Pod. And that way when I make new videos, he's still kind of there, you know? Like he started with the channel, and he'll stay with it, even if I'm not mentioning him in every video, and he's not here, like, on my lap and meowing, and I'm not cutting away. I'm not doing my cuts where Pod comes and I have to go up and then come back, and I kind of cut it so it looks like I just get up and instantly get back down, because there's no Pod to get my attention. Even though I'm not doing any of those things, he's still here because he's the channel, and that it's his legacy, you know, all of these little Pokemon videos. I feel like that's appropriate. It feels appropriate to me. But I know that, I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if that's a bad idea, but it feels like what I should do. And yeah, Pod, I don't know, there's so many more things about him. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, but I can't just keep talking forever because I'm just going to make myself miserable. But he was the most charismatic, charming fellow when he wanted to be, and the most menacing, like, scruffy ne'er-do-well when he wanted to be as well. I always thought he looked like a kind of Scandinavian Moomin troll creature. Like, he was so shaggy and he had these massive big feet, massive fluffy feet. And so he looked like a kind of forest monster from the far north. I always thought that, and I thought that was really cute. And and now we'll never see him again. I'm sure there's more to say. I just, maybe I'm not in the right place to think of it, but I'm gonna try to write down everything I can remember about him, and maybe in a year I'll make another video, like a 1 year anniversary of Pod, a year of Pod, you know. Maybe I'll do that. For now, I think that's all I got in me, because I'm gonna start crying. But thank you for watching, and I'm sorry this is just a rambly mess. Like, I don't know. Sorry. But I'm a rambly mess. I miss him so much. I just miss him, and I want him back. And I just keep thinking I should have done something. I should have locked him in that day. I should have told him not to go down to the motorway, because it's a silly move. But there was no telling him what to do. I should have told him that I loved him and that, you know, that I was meant to protect him. That was my job, and I failed, and he's dead. And I don't know. It's just hard. But I'm gonna keep going, and I will make more videos. I think I will, but I need time, and I need to figure out if it's okay to name the channel after Pod, because I feel like I want to. I feel like if I do that, then it will make it easier for me to keep it going. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I don't know if you're like a Pokemon viewer fan. I mean, this is not what you're here for. It's just misery. I want this bleed into the rest of whatever I eventually put out. You know, this is just behind the looking glass or something. I'm gonna do a 100 subscriber special. I need 3 more, but I haven't put out any videos for like forever, so I haven't got any more. But once I get 3 more subscribers, I'll have 100, and that will hopefully be a bit more upbeat than this. But for now, yeah, I'm sorry I had to tell you guys, and I just miss him, and the channel will continue, but it won't be the same without him. It really won't. Okay. Thank you guys for letting me just talk. I don't know. I needed to talk, I think. I needed to say these things. I feel like there's so much that's just already leaving my brain. So many moments that I'm just already forgetting. Like, it's so sad. But that's how life goes, you know. I think the world is built upon just this incomprehensible amount of sadness. Like, trillions and trillions of living, feeling things just died and left each other behind for millions of years. It's horrendous. And I think if anyone could understand it and comprehend it, they would be crushed by the weight. So I'm not special, and someone dies every second, and it's always tragic, and it's always miserable, and everyone deserves to be remembered, I think. Okay, with that, I'll bid you guys adieu, because I need to get some sleep. See ya.